Cool. All right, so today we are working on lesson 2.2 on absolute value. So hopefully you watched your warm-up videos. But what is absolute value? So absolute value is the distance a number is from 0 on a number line. So if we look at the number line down below, we see that -3 is 3 units away from 0, or +5 is 5 units away from 0. So that's what absolute value is. We're just looking at the distance a number is from 0. Absolute value is represented by 2 lines on either side of a number. So see these lines on the sides of -3? That is what absolute value is represented as. So when we see that, that is asking for the absolute value of -3, which if we look down on our number line would be 3, because -3 is 3 units from 0. So let's look at these right here. The absolute value of -9 is 9. The absolute value of -134 is 34. And the absolute value of 12 is 12. Notice how our answer is always a positive number. That's going to be because in representation of units, we're always talking about a positive amount. All right, so here's our explanation for our answers. -9 is 9 units left from 0. -134 is 134 units from 0. And 12 is 12 units from 0. So absolute value is just the distance from 0. So I want you to practice. Pause the video if you need more time, but tell me the absolute value of -13, -524, and +16. So our answers are 13, 524, and 16. Remember, all of these are going to be positive amounts because it's just a distance. All right, so when we're comparing absolute values, we have to complete the absolute value first before we draw the greater than or less than symbol. So looking at the absolute value, of -26 and the absolute value of 30, we know the absolute value of -26 is going to be 26, and the absolute value of 30 is going to be 30. So 30 is greater than 26. Looking at our next one, the absolute value of -114 and the absolute value of -92, we know that it's going to be 114 because that is a greater distance from 0 than 92. Normally, if we weren't looking at absolute value, the -92 would be greater because we're trying to look at which one is closer to 0. But because we're looking at the greater amount from 0, it's going to be the absolute value of -114. And the absolute value of 12 and the absolute value of 10, we compare those. Those will be positive numbers. 12 is going to be greater there. So pause the video, practice comparing absolute values. Okay, so let's look at our answers here. The absolute value of 55 is greater than the absolute value of -46. The absolute value of -567 is greater than -500. The absolute value of -500, and then the absolute value of 35 is greater than the absolute value of 16. All right, so let's look at real world absolute value. So let's look at this problem here. Kyle has -$190 in his savings account. Allie has $80 in her savings account, and Sandra has $250 in her savings account. So the questions that we're being asked are, who has the most money, the most amount of money in their savings account, and who has the least amount of money in their savings account? So if we take the data, Kyle with negative 190, Allie with $80, and Sandra with negative 250, we know our answers are going to be, to who has the most money in their account is going to be Allie, because she has $80. The rest of them have a negative amount of money. And then who has the least amount of money? Sandra, because she owes $250. If they have a negative amount of money, that means that's how much they owe. So Sandra has the least amount, even though it's the highest number, but it's because she owes that much money. All right, boys and girls, that is the end. So good luck on your assignment and rewatch the video if you need some more help. Bye, guys.